Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I'm so excited for me to be introduced today by my dear friend Tony for part 5. Before I do that, here is a quote I picked just for this episode. Unless you have 100% customer satisfaction, you must improve. Horst Schulz.
Like that.
Thank you for coming back, Tony.
No,
And
thank
thank
you.
you for helping me through this process.
Well, I just want to tell you, and I want to start off by saying, you say help me through this process. I'm not sure I think you've helped me more because one of the things that I've gotten out of these sessions is I have learned so much about the the granular aspects of culture that I would never have thought of that have come just from me asking you a question and you answering them, right?
Hmm.
And it's just been eye opening, and it's every day, every time we do this, it's just I learn more and more. And now, when somebody mentions the word culture about a company, I know so much more. And so, thank you very much. And I'm sure your listeners are learning, a lot because we're getting into like real granular type stuff about culture.
Thanks.
No, thank you. So I've got it. So I'm going to start off with a question, and typically, how we do this is you'll answer a question, and I got 10 more questions after that. So, but I want to go through this, and so we don't run out of time, and this is great stuff. So my first questions to you are about leaders in companies. In your opinion, your professional opinion, are leaders more credible in a workplace that has a great culture?
Are they more credible? Well, okay, so if the definition of great would be that the people they're bought in and it's genuine, that it's not just lip service or a smile when the customer walks in because they're playing a role, but it's real at every level, at above awareness, below awareness, that smile, and it's in their heart, let's say. In that sense, the leader has represented the vision through their words and their actions and their interactions. Words, actions, interactions, not just words. So, for example, in the literature, it said, the culture is the vision. The culture is people knowing the why. That's a variable in it. It's not the whole picture, though. If we know the vision, if we know the why, but we don't feel heard, we aren't heard. We're not interacted with in a way that our voice has value. It's even it's open so that our voice matters. Then there's something missing that can lead people to not be fully bought in at every level of who they are as an individual. So yes, my immediate answer would be, how the people feel about how they're being led. It's like a country,
Right,
we're voting
right.
with our feet. How am I say? We're voting with our feet. So in a company culture, if there's people running out the door left and right, it would help us as leadership to figure out why they're leaving. It's not as easy as just saying those are the wrong people for this company. The reason it's not as helpful to just say that, although it could be potentially true, we're missing out on the opportunity to learn why they left. Are we not governing them in a way that can create ultimately more value for the customers, for the shareholders, for the stakeholders? Customers is quite obvious, right? Product, services. Shareholders, those that have equitable stake, and stakeholders, the overarching community. So yeah, like heck yeah. I live in that complexity, by the way. I live in that complexity and that granularity, and that gets me excited.
I love the word granularity, by the way.
Thank you. Well, you gave me that idea when you said that earlier.
Well, okay, so I want now. I'm going to go back to again. You said something triggered a note. So you talked about employees running out the door, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now
I'm
I got
laughing because it's almost promoted. Like, let's get these people out of here. It's like, what?
Are we getting these people out? Or are they running out themselves? Number one. No, all right. Number two. Okay. So that makes three things. I want to talk about a great culture as it pertains to employee retention, right? That's a sign of good culture, I think. But I want to ask you about this, and I'm going to tell you why I asked this next one. Employees' willingness to recommend their company, because when I worked, now I'm unemployable at this point in my life, but when I did work for somebody, which was my last job in 92. Were you even born 92? So
Yeah, I was
I
born.
were you really?
Yes,
So
sir.
people would come in to interview and they would pull me aside and go, this seems like an intense place. Is this worth coming here? Because, I mean, what do you think? But they would ask people that. And I know people that would tell them, don't. It's a stress. It's a stress. There are a lot of demands or endless hours. Now, I didn't mind it because of where I was in my life. I kind of liked it. I thought it was an opportunity, right? Because I figured, well, and you read the book, but no one else wanted to do it. No one else wanted to do it. So they would fire those people. I didn't care. So I would just sit there. I just do all the work. And I would do all the stuff that was hard that no one else wanted to do because I figured that would establish my value. And I would just keep my nose down. And I did. I didn't get involved in any of the politics. I didn't badmouth anything. But I want to go to employee willingness to recommend their company. And I'm also going to say this. When I was in Vegas, the building I lived in, there were people that worked in the building that would say to me, remember, I'm a resident. They would say, hate this place. This place sucks, right? They don't have a clue. And one day I said to the guy, the guy who kept saying that to me, I said, I'm going to tell you something, you're not going to like it. And he goes, what? I go, shut up. And do your job, because they're paying you to do a job, right? So if you don't like it, don't take the pay. If you're going to badmouth them, just leave. But don't take the money and walk around and trash it. That's my view of the world. Now, it doesn't make it right, but employee willingness to recommend the case. So I remember one time this guy telling me, he's like, oh, we interviewed somebody for this position. He's like, the person, man, you don't want to do this shit, man. This place sucks. I'm like, first of all, it's unprofessional, right? Even if you thought that, right? It's just, so I do want to, I'm going on, but employee
This is good.
retention, right? But if we could skip employee retention in that, can I jump to
I want to
employee
focus on the
willingness?
willingness.
Yeah, can you do that for me? Because I want to hear. I'm very interested in your. I gave you my opinion. You shouldn't trash them. It doesn't. If you don't like it, leave. But you're getting
Okay,
paid.
so let's focus on that for a second. Let's look at the symptom.
Mm-hmm.
The willingness to recruit, to bring in someone's community. Well, that's going to be increased or decreased based on how the institution is relating to it. Meaning, if someone's not willing to bring people in, well, then they're closed to that behavior. If they're willing to bring a friend in, then they're open to that behavior. We've talked over this part 1, part 2, part 3. It's been a recurring theme of creating open feedback loops, integrating people, feeling heard, being heard, upward mobility, being bought into a greater vision of where their lives could be in the overarching institution where it's going. If I'm going along for a ride, I can only bring, I want to bring my friends. I want to bring my people if I'm totally bought in.
If you're
So it's
totally
a
bought in.
sign. Yeah, it's a sign of a closed feedback loop between the person that is unwilling to bring in their friend and whomever is directly leading them and or the actual institution. Now, this is where to actually figure out what the problem is that's leading to, it's like a chain of events that's leading to something like people not wanting other people to be a part of what they're a part of. that's where I've got to get extremely granular to figure out what's leading to it. But just in short, it's a sign of an open society when everybody wants to be to America, that, you know, they're willing to immigrate from all these different places. It's a sign of a cult like environment where people are afraid to leave their company because of some level of backlash. Like, so like North Korea, if you leave, from what I've at least read, they'll do bad things to your family. You're afraid to leave. So the employee's willingness to recommend will demonstrate how open the system is at that time, how closed the system is at that time. Remember, closed systems stifle innovation, stifle communication, stifle trust, stifle, and you know, once trust is broken, then what? Stifles productivity, efficiency, effectiveness. I mean, eventually you get profit, right? Because what is profit? The fruit of all of those things being in congruity, all those things working, effectiveness, efficiency, you know, bringing things to the market, solving the customer's problem. So employees' willingness to recommend is a sign of needs of improvement.
You just said something that really.
Well, there's one more thing I should say. That
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Based on the macro, there's going to be seasons in a culture where, you know, it's going to be hard. Macro, I'm going to say it's overly simplistic for me to just say, yeah, you know, the recommend is like, if they're not recommending, they are recommending, it means this, but it's a signifier that I pay attention to, and it's an important one. There's going to be times in war where we're all trying to survive, and we're recalibrating and reorienting ourselves in the culture and trying to figure out who's on the boat, who's not on the boat for whatever reason. And mistakes are going to be made, and we've got to recalibrate. You know, this is where the macro comes in, right? The economy's starting to shift the tectonic plates, and the company's figuring out, you know, who's on board, who's not on board, where are we going, why are we going there, how are we going to win, and all of that. It's like rolling hills, up and down and up and down and up and down. And how quickly can we get it up again? So go ahead. Sorry.
No. As always, you say something and generates another question. So I have another question. So you mentioned, and we haven't talked about this yet. You mentioned the word profit, the fruit. You called it the fruit, right?
Yes, it's fruit.
It's the fruit, right? Of all businesses, right? I mean, it is, right? So in your experience, how strong is the correlation between culture and profit?
Culture guarantees profit over the long term.
It does. Can you explain that?
Yeah. So and
it's an interesting
in that
angle.
Explanation. Culture takes time to become clear of what it is now, what are the inefficiencies, what is not effective, and how is the organization actually going to orient itself into the future. It takes time to get to even start the process, and then it takes time to start evolving a culture to where it's proactive and not inherently reactive, where it thinks it's proactive when it's actually reactive. And so the profit is an outcome of culture, because culture is people and how people relate to one another. And it's in that exchange, that relating, the relationships of people, that bringing something to market, its costs are either high or low. You know, there's cost, there's price, and there's value. Culture impacts cost. It impacts price. It impacts value. Cost as in how productive are the people bringing something to market, in just a simple way. Price is based on these bigger overarching plans and our resources, our networks, our relationships, our intellectual property, who we are as a people. What can we actually charge for this? And value is somewhere in between those two things, how those relationships relate to one another, where people decide, all right, this is worth this. Culture impacts all of that, because it's about how people work together towards something. through other people, other, competitors, the customers, the overall arching world. So it's in the long term, it's how people work together towards, because ultimately, no matter what sector we're in, no matter what what type of business we're in, what product offering, service, fundamentally what brings us all together, people, is that we're all people. So we're driven by these deeply rooted people drivers. Do we have goals? Are we living our life in a way that decreases suffering and increases happiness, and so on and so forth? And a business can actually bring, or it's a vehicle of bringing meaning, limiting suffering, increasing meaning, increasing fiscal prosperity, communal prosperity to its people, quite literally, or it isn't. So culture is about it being that. And profit's going to be on the other side of that. Profit is like, think about this. If I'm saying, me and my, soon to be wife are saying, we're not going to go out Friday night for the next year because we're going to work on our life plan.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to work on our business. Our culture, the shared values we have based on the vision, the story of what we want in our life, that's going to lower our liabilities, our expenses. It's going to increase the likelihood of what? Savings. Because we're not going out and consuming. We're creating. Culture has impacted our profit. The profit is like what's left after, right? So yeah. Oh, I could go on and on about this. Culture.
Keep going. It's interesting. And go ahead. I think this is
profit is, think of profit like ingenuity. Profit is the equity, the business having X amount left over to reinvest into new innovations. Now, what the people choose to do with that, they're going to give X amount away. They're going to invest the X amount in R&D. They're going to use X amount for acquisition here and do this here. Or they're going to use X amount to live high, to live in a castle and not reinvest into their people. Like, this becomes so subjective how people are going to lead their companies. Using the golden rule, like treat other people the way you'd want to be treated. How do you want to be treated? Do you want to be treated as the person, the peasant on the ground and the person in the castle that's living high while you can't even eat, while you're doing everything you possibly can? Or would you like to be the person, that had a little bit smaller castle that made sure that the best peasant ever had a chance to become a knight? It's like, these are deep philosophical questions that business owners have to answer to build culture.
Okay, so now I'm going to go into I love that, by the way, great answer. So we talk about profit. Now I'm going to ask you about, and I'm almost positive I know this answer, but I want you to touch on your opinion. One thing I've noticed, and it's not in any specific industry, it's not any geographic area, but people will talk about the downturn in customer service. And I'm going to give you an example. I checked into a hotel in Chicago, and I get out of the Uber and I go inside. It's cold rain. I walk inside and I've got my bag. I walk up to the hotel, the check-in, and the lady goes, "Next." I walk up. I take out my credit card and my driver's license, and she takes it. She looks. She says, she doesn't say, "Oh, how are you today? Oh, it's cold outside." Nothing. I mean, nothing, right? And I thought, wow, that's really strange, right? I mean, nothing. Customer service. Flip side of that, same hotel in Chicago. It's cold. This was recently, right? It's really cold outside, and like a dope, I show up with my gym clothes, Florida style, meaning I figured, well, the gym's right across the street from the hotel. I just got to cross the street, so how bad can it be? It was bad. The traffic, and I'm freezing. right? And I'm thinking to myself, this is awful. I go into the gym, I work out, I come back. As I'm walking back to the hotel, shivering, somebody says, Mr. Capullo. I turn around and the kid goes, I don't remember his first name. He's like, I work at the hotel. I'm like, hey, how you doing? He takes off his jacket and puts it over me and says, man, you need to stay warm. I'm like, what about you? He's like, well, I got two jackets on, right? Flip side, she doesn't say anything, doesn't greet me, nothing. Guy gives me his jacket. Customer service. Same place, same hotel. And I went and I told the manager, I was like, that kid, man, you talk about stepping up for your customers. Now, I didn't say anything bad about her because I figured maybe she just had a bad day. So I use those examples, but can you talk to me about culture and how it relates to customer service? Because in that instance, they both worked at the same place. It's the same culture, you would think, right? It is one place. I'm not gonna say the name of the hotel, but can you tell me about your perspective on company culture and how it relates to customer service?
Yeah. So first of all, something I've observed for some time is how our business culture is responding to the social platform evolution.
Yeah.
I just said this on a recent show. It's no longer, especially for the micro, small cap, smaller organizations, the people trying to come up the chain. They're not listed. They have less socioeconomic power. They have a lot more power than, let's say the lowest common denominator. I'm talking about the, business owners of startup or small cap companies, micro cap,
Okay.
smaller businesses, which is
Okay.
the lion's share of businesses in the US. I have this theory about what's happening, which is there's no longer just customers. There's fans.
Okay.
So the leadership of organizations have now two different sets of customers. They have the customers of their equities, and then they have fans of them as a product, as a commodity, being that they're people of influence online.
Tell me what you mean by customers of their equities.
The business has customers. So I make widgets. People buy my widgets. So it's me with the widget, and I have customers that buy the widgets. I have employees that help me get the widgets created into the customer, right? That's a business.
Okay. Okay.
Then there's me on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and fans, people that
Gotcha.
follow me. They're customers of me, of my soul, of my
Okay.
thoughts, of my words, and I'm being sold by social platforms. Below my self-awareness, I now have two customers. I have fans and I have customers. My employees will model my behavior. If I'm not talking about the customer anymore, if I'm not focused on the customer anymore, if I'm not in the day-to-day demonstrating my values with my behaviors where my employees can see it, they're going to model my behavior, my narcissism, my entitlement, my lack of being bought in. Because all I'm worried about and all I'm thinking about are my fans.
I want to ask you
So
about,
that's happening at scale. Yeah.
that's interesting. Is there overlap between fans and customers?
Well, so there can be an integration,
I mean,
but
like
there's not a natural overlap.
there's
No,
not, there's not.
no, it has to be integrated because what's happening is people are being split in two.
Okay.
We're being split in two. This is the difference between who I am in this reality, like physically, and who I am perceived in the personification or the externalization of my ideal self in the social reality, which is the social platform. So you hear these adages like, everyone shows the best online.
Yeah.
Okay, so wait, I'm going to make this practical for the audience, though. A business works like this. It's up to this point in our evolution of a business culture of our species. Company provides products and services. So the leadership is talking and thinking and planning around the solution to the customer's problem. The customer, okay, the employees are going to think and plan and behave based on how they perceive the leadership doing that. It's the law of the picture, Maxwell. People do what people see. They're gonna perceive that behavior. So employees are gonna model those conversations around the customer. So if the company's really focused on the customer and not just getting themselves engrossed in riches, let's say, they get their eye off the ball, it'll increase the likelihood that the employees are going to go that extra mile, extend the door. If the owner of the company opens the door for the customer, the employee opens the door for the customer. The child will model the parent's behavior. You know, the parent says, don't smoke, with a cigarette in their mouth, the child will resent the parent. A gulf will draw between them. The child will now become more likely to attract a negative role model outside the home. And now they're going to end up working for another company. And then they're going to end up having learned those lessons the hard way. So what I'm trying to go here with is the business. Okay, this is very important. The business fundamentally is always, it's about what the customer is about. By focusing on the customer, it shows the values, humility. There's a servant. Although we have power, we're serving you. You, the customer, have power because you can choose anybody, so that it creates supply, demand. The price is, we have to basically, as a business, lower our prices or increase our pricing based on the feedback loops with the customer. It's all about the customer. So it's about other people. There's a level of responsibility that fights the entitlement that comes with power. It fights the narcissism that comes with power, right? Okay. But because we have fans, that's changing the dynamics of business. And nobody that I can tell is even talking about this. So I guess here we are, I'm talking about it. And one more thing. These companies, all companies, are becoming obsessed with culture, people. They're people because they're reacting to people seeing them in their contradictions. Meaning the answer is not to appease our people and to give our employees more entitlements. The answer is we have to elevate our leadership. We have to elevate our awareness. We have to elevate our behaviors. We have to be bought in on a level of what we're doing with our business and understand what the distractions are, so our people have ultimate purpose with what they're doing. We have to go back to the customer and understand. It's not just looking at our people. See, everyone's looking at them. Anyway, I'll stop with that. The fundamental fabric of business is changing at rapid speed, and we're all just seeing everyone react to it, and it's all wrong.
I'm going to pivot because you said, again, you always say something that sends me down another direction, but I got to ask you this. It wasn't where I was going to go with it, but you raised it. And maybe I'll just tell you now that when we get to our next session, which will be Sunday morning, I assume, right? We're going to do number 6, right? Which, by the way, I love this, and I'm getting all sorts of ideas. But I think, just to kind of give you a little, I'm going to tip my hand to you. We have talked in great detail about company culture. So, but you brought this up, and I love that you're getting into the customer service thing, because I think that is such an important thing. You talk about fans and the aspect of culture as it relates to service, because everything is about service to me. I mean, it's right. I mean, we've all experienced bad customer service, right? I mean, I had a lady at AT&T tell me one day on the phone recently. She goes, "Don't get smart with me." I said, "What did you say?" She goes, "Don't get smart with me." I said, "Well, answer my question." Right?
Yeah, that's.
She said that to me. She said, "Don't get smart with me." And I'm like, and I laughed. I said, "I'm not getting smart with you, but I need to answer my question. You're not answering my question." But here's where I want to go with this on number 6, just so you know. And you can tell me now whether you don't want to do it, even though this is not culture. Some people that are listening to this are going to be solopreneurs, entrepreneurs that work out of their home. It's just them. There's people that will, because I have asked somebody, I was telling somebody about this. promoting this, telling people listen to it when it drops because it's so helpful. Culture for individuals. What is my personal culture? Right. And I want to get into that.
Yeah.
We don't have time today to get into it because it's a whole topic. But I think it is relevant because there's people that are listening and go, well, it's just me. I work out of my house.
It's me as a person, right? So it's what?
Yeah, it's me as a person.
It's character, and our character is proportional to the relationships that we hold. Parents, siblings, frenemies, enemies, friends, children. It's an integration of those above, those to the side, and those below. And when we're disintegrated, and we're disintegrated at varying degrees of disintegration of the people, in our lives throughout the history of our lives, that affects our character. Those are the scary conversations that we have to have. I got a list of people to apologize to. Like, it's an ongoing list. And as I evolve and become more successful, that list grows.
Well, hold on.
So I just the other day, I went and saw I tried to see somebody that I owed an apology to, because you get in an argument with someone, you may say things that you could easily rationalize and tell yourself, oh, they said this, so it's okay that I said this. So I would say self-culture, it's in 30 Days of Thought. A lot of the books around this is character. And character, what do you want out of your life? Where are you going?
Can I go to?
I mean, we could do. I'm all about talking about this today. We could segue, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, well, I do want to go to that because you just mentioned it. So I want to read to you something that Steve Wilmer told me.
Oh, great. Shout out to Steve.
Right.
Episode 163.
Thank you for saying it. So I want to go to something that he told me. And he told me this last week. So Steve, in his coaching program, the framework of his coaching program is around the 4 F's: faith, family, fitness, and finances, right? When I asked him to explain each one, he jumped. The first one he said was family. Here's what he said. He said, with your family, now you may not be talking about your family, but he said, apologize and let go of unforgiveness. Apologize whoever you feel you need to apologize to. And if there's someone that you don't forgive, forgive them. And I said to him, well, that's easier said than done because some of those people are toxic. And he said, no, I didn't say you had to have toxic people in your life. I'm saying you can't hold unforgiveness.
Yeah, Tony, let me be clear. I actually have something in common with my enemies of the past. I also don't like that version of me. Because I've grown so much. So I've grown so much since that relationship. Me and my enemy, okay, this person of the past, we have something in common. We both don't like that version of me.
Okay.
That's where my conversation's starting with them.
Okay. I have versions of me I don't like.
Yeah. I do. Yeah, there's people that didn't like that maybe you may or may not want to talk to right now.
I want to go to that. Can I go to that for a second?
Please, this seems practical for people.
Yeah, it is. It is. So, okay. It's an interesting thing that you say that because as I know you and as we, interact more and more, I like you more and more. I mean, you're just great. But you say that, and I think, does everybody as part of their own individual culture have a side to them that they don't like? And is that normal?
Yes. Well, according to the literature, like, meaning there's people that have spent their lives throughout history studying people, and they've written books and they've taught, and we may or may not have access to them based on our lived experience. We may or may not have access to these ideas that have been refined through time, thousands and thousands of years, how to be a person. That's still being revised. So based on, I've studied thousands of hours of trying to put myself back together like Humpty Dumpty, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is culture? My audience is watching me become a person. And so in the literature, they talk about integrating one's shadow. You know, Nietzsche said to go to, you know, I'm going to paraphrase this, but to get to heaven, our roots go down to hell. We got to go into the dark and figure out what's down there. Face, you know, it's like face our fears so we don't manifest them everywhere we go.
You know, David Goggins, you know who he is, right?
Uh-huh.
So he does something that he says he does at the end of the day called the accountability mirror. Where he looks in the mirror and says, what today was I who I should be? And if I wasn't, where wasn't I? Did I say everything? And I really like that. It's a very hard thing to do.
Yeah, because people, I would argue that if we are looking in the mirror, we're either going to weep or repress that despair.
I'm going to
So like
share with
meaning, you know, even when David is saying, "Go look in the mirror," that's forcing us to be aware if we lied or not to ourselves. The more we lie to ourselves, it increases the likelihood that we're going to lie to others. That's right. So anyway,
I want to go.
and a lie can be, you know, an explicit, hey, you know, outright clear lie that's made out of, like, let's say, anxiety. Well, it's like, oh, I didn't mean to do that, but it happened. Or it could be an omission, you know, just leaving something out of fear, out of uncertainty of what could happen, that then leads to a relationship to break down over time. All of this affects our self-culture or our character. And then, of course, the communities that are in our life and around us. And by the way, it'll increase the likelihood of being attracted to, quote unquote, toxic employers. It's like we all, you know, anyway, I digress. Go on.
No, I want to go back to one of the things that Wilmer, I'm looking at my notes. So Wilmer, you know, he's big in faith.
Good. Yeah, that's good.
Right, yes, yes. And he said to me, I want you to spend time with God. That's what he told me. And he said, now, what does that mean? Tell me. He said, I want you to spend 10 minutes a day and come back and tell me what it's like.
Wow.
I said, okay. And he said, no more than 10 minutes. So I did. And I'm going to tell you, and I said, oh, we're live, so I'll say this. The first and second time I did, he said, do it every day for 10 minutes. No more than 10 minutes. I said, okay. I wept. And if you ask me, why'd you weep? Because it was, Jay, it was so concentrated, right? And I started thinking about things like how grateful I am for my health, as you know, what I went through, right? Which, by the way, we haven't even gotten into that, but that's impacted people, right? But how grateful I am because, and not to digress, but when that happened, I remember I would pray and I would say, and Kevin Elko used to say, pray on credit. I say, what was that? Say, thank you for the abundance you give me. Thank you for, even if you don't have it, pray on credit. But I didn't do that. I would ask for one thing: restore my health. Please restore my health. If you're giving my health, I don't care about anything else. I will deal with everything else. Just give me. So when I was sitting there doing this 10 minutes, I started realizing how grateful I am that I can walk, I can work out. I mean, I have elbow pain. That's being dealt with, right? But I mean, overall, right? But what really got me was the parts of me that I don't like, or things I've said to people that I know have hurt them. And that made me weep. It was almost like this self-therapy session, right?
Beautiful.
Yeah, it was very, very,
That'll
and I went back to him, and I went back to Steve, and I said, this may be one of the most powerful exercises. It's not an exercise. It's a lifestyle. I'm not asking to it's just, you know,
so for listeners, for the character building, seek mentorship, and you'll be rewarded with menteeship. Hire Steve or interview to work with Steve, if or the Steves of the world. Like, this is where we would want to shout out, because part of the character thing is, who are your trusted advisors? Who's in your council? Are you not open to that? Are you afraid of that? Does that scare you? Because having external help, no matter what level we're at, when we're talking about building our character, it's who are our mentors, who are our role models, paid and unpaid, who are our mentees, how are we serving them, who are our peers, how do we relate to them? It's like, who are our loved ones, who are our lovers? Like, all of that will reveal varying parts of us that reveal our leadership level, essentially. So I just shout out to Steve, who's impacting you. I would say the audience, search Steve out. I think it's episode 165, actually. Hire Steve. Or
I'll
maybe
tell you.
he'll say, go hire this person because, we're not a good fit, because that's the type of person he is. But like, having advisors, I have various advisors in various disciplines, and I didn't always. But of course, part of the reason I did it was because I read so many books. That's also a medium, and that's also just will get you at a certain level. You read enough to where you realize, oh my God, the value of the school is the professor and the book. It's not just the book. It's that this genius is taking all their time to study this topic, and it's that conversation. So just on the character side, having coaches, having advisors, having mentors, and having mentees, and being both is a part of integration to build the character, to build one's culture outside of the workplace.
So Wilmer is season 14, episode 165.
Yeah, episode 165. Listen to that episode if you're listening to this.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I shout him out, and
I want to give another shout out, because you have all these great guests. Wilmer, okay, and I don't know what number episode this one is, but I will tell you that one of the people that has made such an impact on me in dealing with my emotions is Dr. Christian Conti.
I'll find the episode right now so we can shout it out.
I mean,
Walking Through Anger is the book.
Walking is the book. He's an anger
book.
management specialist. He's one of the few in the country who's a level 5 certified anger management specialist. But he's it's unbelievable. And sometimes if you I've had conversations with him and about the power of meditation, how, and by the way, if any of your listeners really want to get a good feel for him, just go on YouTube. He's got a YouTube channel.
Episode 83, season 7, the Culture Matters podcast.
Can you send that to me when you get a chance?
Yeah, no matter what you do, you play a role is the title. Episode 83 of the Culture Matters podcast. Listen to that one.
He is, for your listeners, he has some really great videos on YouTube, how to deal with anxiety, how to discipline your children, right? I have a friend in Vegas, and she was going through this divorce, and she was all anxiety. And I said to her, well, I have a friend, and thank you for that. I said, you should just try to check out this 6-minute video he's got, whatever it was. And she went, and I forgot that I said it. And then she went back and watched it. She said, how do you know this guy? I said, well, he's a client, he's a friend. She's like, no, I'm watching all his videos. She's like, he's phenomenal. He is, right? He's definitely phenomenal. So
I want
you
to
take
add
a guy,
something for the audience, right? So we're
yeah,
talking about
yeah.
character. I
Hmm.
have a theory. One of the theories that undergirds our work with organizations is called the culture puzzle. So what is the culture puzzle? 5 elements. Number 1 is the hero. That's you. That's me. That's the listener. Story. And I'm going to unpack each simply enough to where someone could take something and get started on the journey. Story, language, mediums, and symbolism. You think you have a circle, you have a hero in the middle, story, and it could be broken into like a pie. Story, language, medium, symbolisms. Okay, what does this mean? Well, you're the hero, right? So it's like, what do you know? What do you know you don't know? What do you not know you don't know? That's your life. Okay, we'll come back to that. Story. Where do you come from? And where are you going? Right? It's your story. Where do you come from and where are you going? Kierkegaard said, life can only be understood backwards, but must be lived forwards. So story, language, how do you talk to yourself and others? Mediums, what rooms are you in? What rooms are you not in? Meaning, I can't go to the strip club on Friday because Friday night I need to be, or on Saturday night because Sunday I have to get up very early for my Bible study. Or, right, I can't be here on Saturday because I have to be there on Sunday. Or here's another less extreme. I'm not going on vacation this year because I'm spending that money to be in the room with Brad Lee and Tony and all these people.
Well,
In the,
can I just,
well,
I have
hold on. Let me finish this so that the audience has this, right? Hero, story, language, mediums. Am I in the room or not, right? And then symbolism. How do I dress? Do I have social platform? And am I on the Instagrams and showing who I actually am? How do I represent my story? How I talk? Where I go? Where I don't go? Hero, we'll go back to hero in the middle. And by the way, this is actual theory that's unpublished, but we use with our work with our companies that we work with for years. I haven't published it yet, but this is why in 30 days of talk, 30 days of talk, 30 days of thought, I talk about reading, writing, and speaking. Reading to think, writing to develop, speaking to let go, and I talk about listening to hear what's unsaid. That develops the hero. That develops us. Education. Education. How we learn about the world, how we learn about ourselves. And that brings to what I said earlier. Who are our mentors? Who are our mentees? So, from an unpublished standpoint, the audience can't really get access to this in depth. But at least today, I can kind of introduce that idea. It's like, if you just re-listen to this a few times, you're listening to this, what's my story? Where do I come from and where am I going? How do I speak to myself and how do I speak with others? What rooms am I saying no to and what rooms am I saying yes to? How do I represent myself in the world? How am I perceived? The culture puzzle. When we're talking about building a company, building a business, building a culture, what's the company's history? What are the rituals? What are the values? That's on their language. What's the story? What was it in 1776? What's missing in 2023? And then it's like, hero. How much upward mobility is in this country? Do I have an opportunity? Symbolism. Do I have pride in my company's logo, in the flag? I studied like thousands and thousands and thousands of hours to figure out, what are the variables of building culture? And it's in a simplistic way. There's a hero, the founder, that's transferring their values through language, story, symbolism, mediums. And they're either getting not accepted, they're being revealed in the heroes of the people. Because everybody's an individual. Everybody has genius in them, potential in them. And the company increases or decreases that likelihood. So in everyone's life, they're a founder of their life. Well, not technically not a founder. They're a recipient because the founder was like the mom and dad in the womb. Well, I guess that's all another conversation we could have. Yeah, we've received this gift to be here and we're
Yeah.
creating our life. So what is your story? How do you speak? What rooms are you in? What rooms are you saying no to? And how do you represent yourself in the world? So sorry, I wanted to make sure at least I could say that for the people.
I was just going to say that in response to your previous dilemma, just do the Bible study in the strip club. That's what I would do.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
always have the best jokes.
I'm so
Yeah.
resourceful, Jay. I just gotta.
Yeah, you're the best jokes. I mean, no, yeah, I can be a bit too intense. So
No,
no,
I
and
love
but
it.
actually, what you just said was very Christ-like. Not to promote one specific religion, but I've been told by many Christians in my life that he would go where the sin was. He didn't participate, but he'd go. So there's something very biblical in what you just said underneath that joke. It's like,
I,
yeah,
I,
go to the strip club, bring the Bible, and convert people out of their purgatory.
I'll tell you what.
I'm trying to save you there.
Well, if you insist, I'll just hop a plane to Vegas and have to go and just try to.
Well, I should say something in that. Listen, it's not culture. You can make a tremendous amount of money not thinking twice about culture. Okay. You actually can perform at a very high level. You do not need to be caring or thinking about culture to do extremely well. I want to make this very clear. To do extremely well, you have to be very talented and have skills, meaning you have to, if you sacrifice thousands of hours to be a genius at something and you stick with it and your product or service is actually accepted into the marketplace, you don't need other people because you can. But essentially the question becomes, what is the sacrifice? Culture is about having it all. It's about family. It's about some level like faith, belief in something bigger than oneself. It's about community. It's about the long term where you're sitting there with $10 billion and love in your heart. But I've observed culture all over the place, and you do not need to be thinking about culture or caring about culture to be rich as hell. I just gravitated towards culture because I've always wanted both. And I just had a really hard time not following my conscience. So like it's not for everybody. Some people genuinely might want, this is kind of what I'm saying, they may want a culture of sin. They may want to get their employees intoxicated and to buy flashy items to get them excited, to make calls. They may want to live above their means to create a persona of power so they get younger people that are less self-aware, less educated to work insanely hard towards something. They may have a compelling story, a sob story that they kind of just use that they haven't really worked through, but they're just stuck in. They may work 80, 90 hours a week and make tons of sales calls and convert tons of deals. And they're not thinking about people and their feelings and their families and honesty. They're not thinking about credit and leverage. They're just riding the wave of the macroeconomic, easy tide.
Gotcha.
I want to be clear, like culture matters when money is expensive, times are tough, and we're not entitled.
Yeah, no,
Culture
I get it.
matters when we want to win a fucking war against the Nazis. Culture matters today because credit is tightening and money's more expensive and deals are harder to make with lower EBITDA, lower multiples. And it's going to matter for quite some time until we start succeeding at a high level again. And then people will be less interested in it. So just something, to kind of I want to make sure that's very clear in these productions here is that there's a lot of people that succeed at a high level and they're not thinking about the long term. They're thinking about the next 6 months, and they think that's long term. And in
Right,
6 months, because 6 months they think is long term, or a year. No. Culture is thinking 40 years out. Culture is thinking, am I going to regret this OnlyFans account when I'm 76? Culture is like,
Well, I'm 60. I'm starting my OnlyFans account next week. So
and I am open because tolerance is a part of culture too. So anyway,
um,
I hope that's helpful.
it does. And so I hate to wrap this up because I'm getting some momentum. So thank you again, as always.
Thank you.
Unbelievable. So we go round 6 on Sunday, which I hope is as exciting as this one.